welcome to Politics in Parlance, a podcast where we muddle through the headlines looking for the punchlines. I'm your host, Christy Biddleston, and I thank you so much for sharing your time with me. In today's podcast, we are talking with Mr. Steve Morris. Steve is a candidate for Mayor of Concord, North Carolina, and he's also a native of North Carolina. Steve was raised in Cabarrus County and attended A.L. Brown High School. He went on to North Carolina State University and the University of North Carolina at Charlotte to earn a bachelor's in business administration. He served as a Cabarrus County commissioner from 2012 to 2024, and his record shows a focus on public safety, education, and providing quality services to Cabarrus County. Steve championed the development of a dedicated behavioral health emergency department in partnership with Atrium Health. The Stephen M. Morris Behavioral Health Center broke ground in November of 2024 with plans to open in late 2026. He supported pay increases for public safety and EMS services and raised teacher salary supplements to the highest in the region. I am so excited to talk with Steve today. We have a challenging political landscape, but that means we have opportunities for creative leadership at a local level. And I look forward to talking with him about how we can meet these challenges in the future. Let's dive in. Hello.
Good morning. How are you?
I'm doing well. How are you, sir?
Excellent.
Good. Is the sound and everything okay for you?
Yes, everything's
Perfect.
good on this end.
All right. So thank you so much for doing this. And just wanted to get a little bit of information from you that voters could learn a little bit more. So we already went over what was on your platform. Just to start out, can you tell me a little bit more about your background or what's inspiring you to run for mayor?
Well, I really love this city and this community, and it has been a real pleasure to have been involved not only politically in elected office for the last 12 years, but I've lived here my entire life and in the city of Concord for 40 plus years. So
Wow.
during that period of time, I've had an opportunity to be involved with a lot of nonprofits, a lot of community organizations, and really invested in what we have here in Concord, and I'm very proud of what myself and many others have accomplished over the years. As a result of that, all of our collective efforts, Concord is a very attractive place to live.
Yes.
And so we cannot hide that under a basket. There are people all over the United States, moving to our region, and they come to the city of Concord because of the quality of life and because of the things that we offer here. And so, even though growth brings some challenges, that
Always.
we are very proud to be such a desirable place to live.
Yeah. Well, and we could always make room if, hey, come on in. We're a very, very hospitable town. So on your website, you had mentioned affordable housing, and there were some terms on it. My background's in healthcare, so I didn't understand a lot of the terms, but you were talking about infill development, accessory dwelling units, and small multifamily projects. Could you kind of explain what those are and how that would look in Concord?
Absolutely. And it's kind of ironic that we're having this discussion at this moment, because I just came from a breakfast, a fundraiser, and annual meeting for We Build Concord, which is an organization that was started by the city a number of years ago, specifically to address affordable housing here in the city. And so, some of the terms that you're talking about, infill development, and we're seeing a lot of that happening now. There are spots around town where there have been vacant lots, undeveloped lots, some instances, right.
Yeah.
We always thought that they just have a particularly large yard, but actually it's a an undeveloped piece of property there that somebody has owned and wants to sell. And so we're seeing new development occurring in those areas in existing neighborhoods.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, and then accessory dwelling units. I think the classic example of that is mother-in-law suite.
Yeah.
Where somebody has available property and they have a relative that wants to downsize, and so that creates a greater opportunity, for somebody that
Yeah.
may require a very modest. They don't want a lot of square footage. That's what they're trying to get away from. And then, of course, a new thing that's happening, and We Build is beginning a project um, near downtown very shortly of tiny homes, a tiny home community. So,
Hmm.
we're looking at some of those options that may not have been something that we would have thought about 10 or 15 years ago.
Right.
But that provides alternatives as far as we talked about those accessory dwelling units.
Yeah.
That can be constructed at a lower cost because you already own the property,
Right.
and there are a lot of different aspects of it. Some of the things that we did when I served on the county commission, um, we had a lot of the federal money that came down during COVID
Hmm.
that we were able to distribute in the community, the ARPA funds, and so we committed. I'm pretty sure the amount was $5 million to We Build Concord, so
Hmm.
that the county could partner with the city of Concord to help make that affordable housing more attainable. And
Yeah.
so that those they're using those funds now to create affordable housing. Another thing that we did later on was establish a revolving loan pool fund for construction loans. That way, if you have conventional financing might be much more expensive,
Hmm.
we can attract some builders who can take advantage of this revolving fund that we've created to get whereas they may be paying a much higher rate, they might get a rate as low as 1% on their
Wow.
construction financing. And then,
Hmm.
of course, once that project's completed and they pay that construction loan back, then we use it again.
Wow.
And We Build is administering that fund, and that's available for the entire county, not only the city of Concord, but those are some of the kind of things that are making a difference. And the most exciting part to me is nationwide, you hear the same discussion. This is not an issue that's unique to Concord, but affordable housing is an issue all across the country, and everybody's
Yeah.
talking about it. Um, and but you don't hear an awful lot of solutions. So for us to have a concrete working um, plan to address. I mean, you have to take it in small bites
Hmm.
to accomplish it, but we're making progress, and so I'm very excited about that and very proud. And it takes a lot of collaboration.
Sure.
Um, Nobody can do those things by themselves. It takes a lot of people on the team working together, and we've been very fortunate to have those kind of relationships to step up and address some of these issues. So, as you may be able to tell, I'm very enthusiastic about it.
Well, and I can see why. I mean, the what you were talking about with the accessory dwellings is that
Mhm.
we have, I say we, my family in Germany, we have a lot of those, and they're very, I
Right,
don't want to say trendy, but they've always been around.
right.
Um, and even where people live, it's all brownstones and apartments and things like that.
Mhm.
But the cost of rent there
is much lower. The gas is a lot higher, but yeah, because I mean, a lot of times, like my uncle would say, we're here to sleep and eat. After that, you
Exactly.
just got to, and
Right.
I've stayed in a couple of tiny houses like that were Airbnbs.
Hmm.
It was really fun.
Yeah.
It was
Yeah.
really fun.
Yeah,
So
well, I mean,
okay.
we just have to be open-minded,
Hmm.
and there are examples just like you talked about, uh, overseas in Europe, where they learned some of these lessons a long time ago.
Right. And I think that's better than just building high rises everywhere. I think that they're really cool to look at, but too many of them, it's just a lot. But
Right.
okay. Well, let me move on to the next one because this is the question that I was really excited about asking you because it's a big thing for you. Expanding access to mental health care. You have been a huge advocate for mental health care. Um, as you probably know, we've got some big challenges coming up for mental and behavioral health. The HR1 bill, if it stays as is, and I'm hoping that they'll make some changes because it won't come into effect until I think the end of next year.
Hmm.
But there's going to be some changes to how much, like, doctors have to pay more to use the Medicaid program. So that's going up. And then there's going to be for behavioral health, including the um, the psychiatric residential treatment programs, like where they have group homes and things like that. That's
Hmm.
going to be cut by 10%, which it doesn't sound like a lot, but when you have people that are also possibly losing their Medicaid, you can end up in a really sticky situation. Do you have, as far as access to services, do you have any ideas or know of any resources that people could go to for help right now? I know there's been a lot of stories going around about problems with mental health. Or is there anything on the pipeline to help with that you know of?
Well, I can really speak only to what we're doing locally here in
Mhm.
Cabarrus County, but um, uh, two of the things that we've done. I talked about some of the ARPA funding earlier, and so we were able to direct some of that funding to specifically to create a behavioral health emergency room at Atrium Northeast here in Concord.
So that the
So
funding came. Oh, wow.
yeah,
Okay.
so that was one of the things we did. Prior to that, uh, you know, if somebody's having a mental health emergency, and I use the example of a teenager, because that does happen, and
Mhm.
it gets out of control. The parents can't manage the situation; they have to call for help.
Right.
So they call law enforcement. Law enforcement comes
Yeah.
out. They can't get the situation under control.
Mhm.
Um, and so they have two options available. They can transport this person to the emergency room at the hospital or to the detention center, and neither of those options are good options for somebody experiencing a mental health emergency. And
Right.
so if they go to the emergency room, then they go in with the general population. Uh, there are lights and noises and
Yeah.
beeping equipment, all of those things that could exacerbate a situation. And so now they have a dedicated emergency room specifically for those behavioral health patients. And so it's a very different environment, and that is up and running now. The next issue is uh, quite frequently. I mean, there have been horror stories about people having to be to remain in the emergency room for 30, 60 days
Mhm.
because there's no facility available to transfer them to get the kind
Right.
of care that they need. And so with this behavioral health center, which is another project that is just down the road from Atrium, um, we were able to secure $32.5 million from the state of North Carolina
Mhm.
towards that project. Cabarrus County is contributing substantially to it as well. And
Okay.
so that facility will have a behavioral health urgent care facility, which they call BHUC for short.
Mhm.
But that will be a no wrong door facility, and 24 hours a day, uh, 365 days a year. And if somebody shows up there, then they will be equipped and trained to handle that crisis. And so hopefully there will be many situations where they will address the issue,
Mhm.
hopefully stabilize this individual, and they may be able to go back home to their regular life. If that is not the case, then there are step up facilities that will be available there as well. There will be one section, and they have to be segregated according to Health and Human Services rules and regulations. But
Mhm.
one section for adults, and then one section for children and adolescents,
Mhm.
where they will receive the care that they need there on site. So it's going to be, I mean, these, I always use the example, and I have known parents who have had a teenage child that has experienced behavioral health issues. They may have been in the emergency room here. Those parents have to stand by and watch their child being taken in a sheriff's deputy vehicle to Raleigh. And they're not allowed to travel with them. And so you can just imagine how
That would rip my
traumatic
heart out.
that is for the
Yeah.
child and the
Mhm.
parents,
Yeah.
both. And I mean, there are certainly valid reasons that it has to be that way, I'm sure. But this eliminates this. This means they will be here close to their families where they'll get that kind of support. And so yeah, I could not be more excited about the prospect. This will it be large enough? I'm sure it won't. But
Yeah.
it's kind of like we said about affordable housing. You have to take it a bite at a time
Mhm.
and do what we can. So really, really excited about it. And this, I mean, it's a result of a lot of lobbying and uh, a lot of work over a lot of years to make that come to fruition. And so to see it actually coming out of the ground with a scheduled opening date is extremely exciting.
Well, and do they have a date yet, or is that secret?
The date that I have gotten is spring of 26. And I'm
Okay.
accustomed to, if they say spring of 26, that probably means late summer of 26. But
Or fall
uh,
or yeah.
yeah, that's the
Yeah.
way construction projects work. But
Mhm.
yeah, they're.
Okay.
I mean, it's nice to ride by and see the progress that they're making there.
So where is it gonna be located at?
It is located on Copperfield Boulevard, just about less than a mile from Atrium Northeast.
Is it in
The
front of Ortho Carolina?
it is where the most recently it was the ACN building. Uh,
Yes.
Originally, it was Concord Telephone Company, and
Right.
so the
God, I remember that.
yes. Yes, yeah. Cabarrus County was able to purchase that property, which had enough undeveloped land on the front side for the construction of this facility. The existing building that was on that property will be the Human Services headquarters for Cabarrus County, which is now
Oh,
housed.
wow.
Currently it's in an old Kmart building in
Yeah, in a
Kannapolis.
strip mall
Right.
kinda deal.
And
Yeah.
this is a little more centrally located for the county. It has easy access to I-85. It is on a public transportation line. It's on one of the bus lines. So all of those factors, were used in determining that location. And plus, this behavioral health facility, if you have a patient come in that has medical issues, many times they are required to have a medical clearance,
Right.
to check out their, any issues there. And so that means they have to be transported to Atrium to get that medical clearance. So the close proximity of these two really makes it attractive. So it's
Yeah.
only a few blocks away. So, and plus, I expect there'll be people from all around the region
Yeah.
that will be taking advantage of this facility. And so at each end of Copperfield Boulevard, there is an exit to I-85, as well as centrally located in Cabarrus County. So we feel like it's a place where people can get to.
Yeah. It seems ideal. There's a surgery center, everything up there.
Right.
So this is actually going to go kind of into I have two other things that I wanted to ask you about that kind of work together. So mental health segues into that. You, on your platform, you said, talked about programs to build trust between law enforcement and citizens. And I feel like this is a huge need in our community.
Mm-hmm.
Tell me some more about that.
Well, I mean, there are, you can go a lot of different directions with that, but I'll first say that I think that our police chief and our staff here in the city of Concord is doing a good job in that regard. There are a number of neighborhood policing programs that that introduce some of our police officers to these neighborhoods, and so they actually know them, and they
Oh,
may
wow.
look at them as a resource rather than always in a punitive manner.
Right.
And so I think that that's really important. And um, certainly the attitude that is expressed from the mayor's office and the actions of city council goes a long way in making people feel comfortable in their community. I was with a group last night that had a public forum, which was El Puente Hispano, which is primarily Hispanic folks in the community. They have a large population, and there's a lot of fear
Fear.
in that community. So I think that for all people in the community to hear their elected officials um, express publicly that we want to make sure that all families in our community feel safe and protected, feel safe in their neighborhoods, and is really, really important to have that. And everybody deserves equal access to all those services from public safety right on down, everything that city's involved in. And so, that's the reason that I've kind of adopted a slogan in my campaign of One Concord, because as the city has grown, we're up to about 115,000 people now, about the 10th largest city in the state. Um, sometimes it's easy for newer parts of the community to maybe not feel as engaged as others. And so I think we need to demonstrate a very deliberate effort to make sure that everybody's opinion and viewpoint is considered and everybody is included. And that goes across the board, including
Right.
public safety.
Yeah, and I think being able to see the officers for something other than a ticket would
Right.
really be good. Okay.
Yeah.
My last question for you is a thought experiment. Okay. You're the
Okay.
mayor of Concord. We're just
Mhm.
going to go ahead and put you in that role. Let's say you get up in the morning, there's been a horrible crime during the course of the night, and it's gotten on the news and it went national.
Right.
The White House hears about it, and the next thing you know, you find out secondhand we're about to get the National Guard in Concord.
Hmm.
How do you handle it as a mayor as far as towards the public and with law enforcement? Because those are going to be the two kind of populations that are really going to be like, uh-oh. And even coordinated, because what I'm hearing is that this is kind of happening without any coordination with local
Right.
areas, and you sound like someone that would try to facilitate that. So that's one of the reasons why I wanted to present you with that situation. And I know it's a bad situation, but it could happen.
Well, yeah, and that is quite. I think you label that a thought experiment, and
Yeah.
that's yeah, that's quite an experiment. But
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, obviously, these are things that we hear about on the news every single day. Um, the I cannot imagine that happening in the city of Concord,
Right.
but it could.
Mhm.
I mean, there are other things that I haven't imagined that have happened, both good and bad.
Yeah.
But I think that if you have the proper foundation, when a situation like that might occur, and in which you should have, and the mayor should have that level of confidence
Mhm.
in the resources of the city, then I think it would be easy for the mayor to stand up and say, I have 100% confidence in our law enforcement officers and our public safety here in the city of Concord. We've worked hard over the years to develop trust and respect amongst our citizens and our law enforcement officers. A tragedy has occurred, and for that we are all distressed, uh, but unfortunately tragedies occur every day.
Right.
And so to use an unfortunate situation to try to induce fear amongst our citizens is unfair. And so we as the city are going to do everything in our power to make sure that our residents feel safe and secure.
Right.
And we're going to take the steps to communicate with them, to provide them an opportunity to express their opinions to us, to make sure that every citizen feels safe in our city. To bring in outside influences, outside authority,
Mhm.
could be counterproductive to that process.
I agree.
I think if I walked out my front door right now and I saw uniformed National Guard members walking down my street, then I would immediately become alarmed
Yeah.
and immediately assume that there was a problem, and there's not one that I'm aware of. So I just
Mhm.
don't think now. If we did have a problem, then obviously we would want to secure assistance everywhere that we could, but
Right.
we certainly don't want to, um, you know, I hate to use the term, but there are a lot of things that are sensationalized
Mhm.
for political purposes,
Right.
um, that are not productive to our community and our citizens. And Yeah. So I hope that answered your question.
It
That's not
really
one I've
does.
thought about a whole lot. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and I mean, I'm kind of wondering too, with a lot of places that this is happening, there's a lot of adversarial relationships too, and you kind of wonder what the background is on that. But that being said, it worried me especially because we're still in hurricane season,
Right.
and if something pops off, we need our guard.
Right.
You know,
Absolutely.
so that's and who knows what other resources we'll have. So those folks we really need. But yeah, I think that's and I wonder how much of that has been tried by other states, but we'll never know. So is there anything else that you want to add? How can people look you up if they want to find you if they have any questions?
Well, they can go to my webpage, which is votestevemorris.com.
Okay.
I have a Facebook account, which goes by the same name, Vote Steve Morris, Mayor
Okay.
of Concord. My videos, where I talk about a number of issues, are there on Facebook. They're also on my webpage. They're also on YouTube. And they're also on TikTok and Instagram. And I have learned unbelievable things about social media. Uh,
Yes.
yeah, that
It's
yeah. I met somebody on the street yesterday, and they said, "Oh, you popped up on my TikTok feed," and
Oh,
yeah,
wow.
they were seemed to be impressed by that, and I said, well, that's great. 6 months ago, I wouldn't have known what you were talking about. But yeah,
Well, and
so
I'll make sure to have those links too in the description on the podcast so people can
great.
find you. And we have early voting right now,
Early voting starts next Thursday on
next Thursday.
October the 16th, and it will run for about 2 weeks into Election Day.
Mhm.
And if there's any single message that I think is most important, is that the voter turnout in our city elections is dismal.
Right.
In the last municipal election here in Concord, county-wide, turnout was about 10%. If you break that down to the Concord precincts alone, I think it was closer to 5%. Uh,
Wow.
and so, it just doesn't get on people's radar. Uh, you know,
Mhm.
just like the, scenario that we just discussed
Mhm.
is really important, and it makes an impact. Uh, and so, just want to people to understand why it is so important to vote. And here in the city of Concord, one of the issues that I'm very passionate about is our elections. Our city elections are currently nonpartisan.
Mhm.
That means anybody can run.
Mhm.
Unaffiliated voters can run for city office, just like a Republican or a Democrat.
Mhm.
And unaffiliated voters are the largest registered vote group of registered voters in the city of Concord right now,
Right.
and in Cabarrus County, and in the state of North Carolina. So both of my opponents in this mayor's race are in favor of changing our city elections to partisan, which means that we would have a primary, which if our primaries in general elections, in the last primary during the presidential election year,
Mhm.
2024, our turnout in the primary was about 20% countywide. And so you can imagine how low that would be for a municipal election.
Right.
Plus, that would eliminate the opportunity. The only way unaffiliated voters could run for office would be if they got thousands of signatures on a
Yep.
petition. And so
Yep.
we have some folks in Raleigh that tried to pass a bill this past year to the first draft of that bill was just to change it with no discussion with the public at all. The second version of that bill did provide for a referendum, so people could vote and say what they wanted.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm very opposed to changing that, because I feel like we need to be talking about things that bring us together as a community, not things that will divide us.
Right.
And the issues that we deal with in a city, on a city council, um, are typically nonpartisan in nature.
Right.
And then
Well, they affect everybody.
well, exactly. And people, I mean, people use we don't have Republican potholes and Democratic potholes.
Nope.
They are the same, and they need to be addressed. So that's something that's one of those things that, based on the outcome of this election, could be a change that would impact our city for generations to come.
Yeah.
Yeah. So please get out and vote.
Yes, absolutely. All right. So hang with me. You're going to see kind of an outro, Steve, but just hang on with me so I can give you a little more specifics. And
Sure.
thank you. I will make sure that everybody can reach you if they need to. And I wish you the best of luck.
My pleasure. Thank you for inviting me.
All right. Give me just a moment here.